things finally sort of came to a head where I realized I couldn't live the way I was living. And one day, I told Lane that if she was going to be drunk when I get home that night, I didn't want her to be there. It was one of the hardest things I ever did.
Joe, you participated in the rededication moment in the 8:15 service at Easter.
I did.
And came forward and wanted to rededicate your life with Christ. Let's go back a little bit and tell us about your faith story. How has God been working in your life? And tell us about that time where God became real.
At the time, I was working 6 days a week, and Sunday was my day off. So church wasn't a big priority of mine, and I stayed home and slept in while she took them off. Eventually, I got to the point where I felt like I wasn't fully involved with the family. I had a belief in God, but no real understanding of what it is I believe. And I was sort of sitting there waiting, figuring someday faith will arrive. It'll strike me like lightning, and I'll have a belief, and then I'll start going to church, and that never happened. So I decided, well, I'll just go with them on Sundays. And gradually, as I went, I sort of learned a lot and started going to Sunday school, and that became a really important part of my life. And my belief just grew, my faith grew, and I started understanding what it is that I believe. I sort of realized that it's not something that strikes while you're waiting for it to happen. It takes participation. You have to show up and find out. Eventually, I came to understand that Lane was an alcoholic. When you live with an alcoholic, you have a lot of denial. You have a lot of shame and a lot of anxiety. And that was a really low point for me. I couldn't share with anybody. I couldn't even share with God what was going on. I would pray occasionally, mostly like a help me kind of prayer or a get me out of this kind of thing. But there was no personal relationship at all.
Where does the story go now? What's next in the story for you?
I had been living with this anxiety for quite a long time. Every time the phone rang, I was afraid it was the police calling that Lane had been arrested or killed somebody or hurt herself. And every time I tried to call her and she didn't answer, I just imagined her on the side, in a ditch in her car. It was in the middle of the day. I was working and I was panicking and didn't know what to do. I thought I'd go ahead and finish working, stopped for a minute, and thought, what do I do now? So I called James. Right then, I went home that night and talked to Lane, and she agreed to come back with me, which I thought was a miracle. That was just a life-changing moment, that the world didn't end when I said something to somebody, and I was then able to talk to God about it. I was able to go to my Sunday school class and ask them to pray for us. And it was a turning point in our lives for sure. She struggled for a few months, and now she's been sober for 3 years. So I went from believing there was a God to coming to church and finding out what I believed and understanding more about what I believed. And now I'm at the point where I came to the point where I actually depended on God. When you're with an alcoholic, they're not controlling their lives, they're not controlling their drinking. So I think this is typical of spouses of alcoholics. Felt like I had to jump in and take control. Acting like that grows doesn't get smaller. You start to think that you're the only one who can handle anything. You're the only one who can, and it's not true. I couldn't control her drinking at all. And when I finally realized that and could turn that over to God, it's not my business, it's between Lane and God. And what I needed to do was take care of myself, give up trying to control everything. I feel like I have a calling to help other people who have been through similar situations. My door is open. My phone number is in the directory. Anybody who's going through anything like what I've been going through, feel free to call. But it really can't help to talk to somebody. And I'm there if someone needs to.